for me anyway, is good reason why racial profiling is wrong and shouldn't exist. I think you will probably encounter very few, particularly African American males or Latino males in the state of Connecticut that have not experienced some degree of racial profiling. I would include myself in that group. And you have only but to be the victim of racial profiling one time in order to feel the sense of frustration and just being incensed and enraged about the manner in which you're being treated and the reason that you're being treated in such a manner. On September 1st, the state treasurer of the state of Connecticut, who was an African American female, was stopped on Barber Street in Hartford for apparently no reason other than she was driving a nice car in a poor neighborhood. The circumstances are she was at a hairdresser's, and one of the employees of the hairdresser's was in need of a ride home, and she offered to give that person a ride home. Didn't know that the person lived on Barber Street, but I'm not sure it would have made much difference to her. She did in fact give that individual a ride home, and in the apartment complex where the person lived, there was a parking lot. She pulled into the parking lot and let the person out. The person went into her home. She didn't know the person other than the fact that she was an employee of the hairdresser, which the state treasurer patronized. As she was attempting to exit the parking lot, two police cruisers darted in front of her and blocked her path, preventing her egress from the parking lot. And I guess one of the police officers, who was a female, white female officer, approached her driver's side door window and demanded identification and registration. As it turns out, while it wasn't her first inclination, she did identify herself. That is, the state treasurer identified herself as such and produced some registration out of the glove compartment box in the car. The computer run on that came back that the car was unregistered. Now, all of this later turns out to be erroneous information, that the computer was wrong, the car was in fact registered. There is no insurance card in the car because it's a state-owned vehicle. It's insured by the state of Connecticut. Long story short, all of the information that's provided is provided willingly, readily, immediately, in compliance with the requests of the officer. Some of it turns out to be either computer error on the part of the Department of Motor Vehicles or computer error on the part of the police department, which erroneously indicates that the car is not registered and that there is no insurance documentation for that. In any event, the state treasurers, the vehicle that's assigned by the state of Connecticut to the state treasurer, who is not responsible for the registration or the insurance of the vehicle, is impounded. And I think the whole matter is compounded by the fact that the state treasurer is now in a position where she has to walk to her home. Mind you, Barber Street is in my district, and I respect many of the residents that live on Barber Street, but I would not let a female of any race, color, or ethnicity walk from one end of Barber Street to the other end of Barber Street. But apparently the police officers did not only let State Treasurer Denise Napier walked from Barber Street to the end of Barber Street, but walked from Barber Street to her home on Westerly Terrace, which was 3 miles away. My complaint with this incident and racial profiling in general is that State Treasurer Napier did absolutely nothing wrong. There was no reason, no articulable reason for the police to inquire of her what her identification was or to seek registration information. And I just think that the incident should serve as a wake-up call to all of us, especially law enforcement, concerning why racial profiling is a technique and a police procedure that is fraught with difficulty. And we should take whatever steps are necessary in order to eradicate it as a technique or a police procedure. In this incident, I think there arise some very significant additional questions concerning how the police are deployed, in what neighborhoods, and I think an overriding concern of how African American and other individuals of color who occupy high positions are not necessarily given the regard that I think they deserve, or the respect and courtesy that I think that they deserve. And I've gone on for a while. I know that you probably have questions, and I'd be happy to respond to any questions at the appropriate time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for all of your contributions. I have a couple of quick questions, which I think first of all start with Mr. Cases. Could you, I believe I read somewhere, I can't recall exactly where, that that you applied for a federal grant to receive funds to allow you to conduct the data collection and analysis, and that grant was actually successful, but there was technical difficulties in actually receiving the grant. Could you tell us more about that? And the broader question is, presumably there are disingenuous reasons for opposing fixing the law, as you attempted to do. What about the reason given that there simply isn't the revenue right now, there simply isn't the money, and how would you propose addressing that question? And then the second question would be about the complaints procedure. I don't know if I exactly got how that complaints procedure runs, whether that goes to the Connecticut State Attorney's Office or if you receive that information. If you could tell us about the level of complaints that go on, I believe Mr. Cases, you might be able to help us with that.
Okay, with regard to the grant, through the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, there are funds that are channeled through the state's Department of Transportation. 3.5 years ago, we submitted a proposal to the Department of Transportation for those funds. Funds of a little over $500,000, about $600,000, which guidelines indicate can be used for racial profiling. That's the reason why they have it. We applied for it. The draft was preliminarily accepted by the Department of Transportation, but when we started to fine-tune it as to how funds were going to actually be transferred to the organization which would be running the utilizing the funds, it became impossible for our commission to do that. One of the reasons why is that our budget is so small, and it's a reimbursement procedure that we'd have to have the money in order to expend on it. So we tried to investigate other ways of dealing with it, having another municipality